Union to strengthen democracy.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. Beijing and Washington hold a call to discuss bilateral trade and economic ties as issues from soybean orders to computer chips remain problematic despite the trade truce in October. China's He Lifeng holds dialogue with Trump officials, Bessent and Greer. China warns Japan against reviving militarism as Tokyo boasts defense spending, eyes missile exports. China condemns Japan's Prime Minister for suggesting possible military action over Taiwan, accusing Tokyo of reviving dangerous militarism. Dutch minister admits being blindsided by China's retaliation in Xperia chip crisis. Karamanz faces criticism after Beijing choked off chip flows and scrutiny of his move to invoke a Cold War-era security law. China's officials say the country will work with the United States on salient global narcotics issues based on the principles of equality and mutual respect. Adds authorities on both sides are implementing a consensus reached between China-US leaders in Busan and South Korea. The US Supreme Court agrees to hear a case on whether some children born in the US have a constitutional right to citizenship. In January, President Trump had signed an order to end birthright citizenship for those born to parents who are in the country illegally, but the move was blocked by multiple lower courts. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky removes his former chief of staff Andriy Yermak from the National Security Council amid a sprawling corruption investigation that has rocked Kyiv. Yermak is also no longer a member of the Stavka, the high command of Ukraine's armed forces, according to two presidential decrees. FIFA awards President Donald Trump the Peace Prize at the 2026 World Cup draw, giving the spectacle to set matchups for the quadrennial soccer tournament even more of a Trumpian flair. Trump welcomes US vaccine advisors, scrapping a long-standing recommendation that all American newborns receive the hepatitis B shot and signed a memo to review aligning child immunization recommendations. And moving on to the top focus at this hour, viewers, news from the United States, where Donald Trump has stepped in after a US vaccine panel voted to stop recommending the hepatitis B shot for all newborns. Soon after the vote, Trump says that he has signed a memo ordering health officials to fast-track a full review of the entire childhood vaccine schedule. Trump says the US should compare its vaccine guidelines with other developed countries and change them if those countries' practices are better. He even praised the panel's move to end the automatic hepatitis B shot at birth, calling it a very good decision. Health experts, however, worry this could create confusion and raise new doubts about vaccines. The CDC director will now decide whether to officially adopt the panel's recommendation or not. All right, viewers, Trump has welcomed the US vaccine advisors who have scrapped the long-term recommendation that all American newborns receive the shot for hepatitis B. Now, viewers, several developments have been coming up in this regard. CDS director also was determined that those best practices are superior to current domestic recommendations and directed to update the US core childhood vaccine schedule to align with such scientific evidence and best practices from peers. Donald Trump signs memo to align US child vaccines with certain other nations of the developed world. He's also ordered review of why US childhood vaccine scheduled has more shots than peer countries. He's directed his top health officials to conduct a systematic review of the childhood vaccinations by reviewing those of higher income countries and update the domestic recommendations as the schedules abroad appear superior. This is what the memorandum that was signed is saying reportedly. And in fact, it also says that in January, US recommended vaccinating all children for 18 diseases, including COVID-19, which made the country a high outlier in the number of vaccination recommendations for all children. The study is warranted to ensure that Americans are receiving the best scientifically supported medical advice in the world. That's what the memo is stating. All right, and we now move on, viewers. FIFA President Gianni Infantino is facing mounting backlash after presenting Donald Trump with the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize, an award he created and selected personally. Now, the ceremony took place Friday at the Kennedy Center in Washington, where Trump called it one of the great honors of his life. The timing raised further controversy, coming less than 24 hours after the Trump administration carried out another deadly airstrike in the Caribbean. Infantino praised Trump's role in diplomatic agreements ranging from the Abraham Accords to regional truces in Africa. But critics say the move contradicts FIFA's long-standing pledge of political neutrality and accuse the organization of overlooking the US president's human rights record. The award has also reignited debate over FIFA's refusal to take action against Israel, with opponents arguing that the governing body cannot ignore the impact of Israel's military operations in Gaza and the wider region. Infantino has insisted football cannot solve geopolitical issues, but critics say the Peace Prize undermines that claim. Listen in to Infantino and what he had to say on Trump.
Before giving you the floor, Mr. President, if I may say two words. Like everyone here in the room, we see images of war all over the world. And like everyone, we suffer for every child that dies. We cry with every mother that loses someone she loves. And we want to see hope. We want to see unity. We want to see a future. And I was lucky, Mr. President, to witness a few years ago the Abraham Accord signatures. A few months ago in Sharm el-Sheikh, the peace in the Middle East agreement regarding Gaza. I was in Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur for the peace between Cambodia and Thailand. Yesterday here in Washington, the Washington Peace Agreement between Rwanda and the DRC. Well, this is what we want from a leader that cares about the people. We want to live in a safe world, in a safe environment. We want to unite. That's what we do here today. That's what we'll do at the World Cup, Mr. President. And you definitely deserve the first FIFA Peace Prize for your action, for what you have obtained in your way, but you obtained it in an incredible way. And you can always count, Mr. President, on my support, on the support of the entire football community or soccer community to help you make peace and make the world prosper all over the world. Thank you very much, Mr. President. The floor is all yours.
Well, thank you very much. This is truly one of the great honors of my life. And beyond awards, Gianni and I were discussing this. We saved millions and millions of lives. The Congo is an example, over 10 million people killed, and it was heading for another 10 million very quickly. And it just you know, the fact that we could do that, India, Pakistan, so many different wars that we're able to end, in some cases a little bit before they started, just right before they started. It was going to be late, but we got them done, and it's such an honor to be with Johnny. I've known Johnny for so long. He's done such an incredible job, and I have to tell you, you've set new records on ticket sales, and not to bring that up because we don't want to bring a thing like that up right now, but it's an awfully nice tribute to you and to the game of football, or as we call it, soccer, but football, and that is an amazing thing. The numbers are beyond any numbers that anybody, even beyond what Johnny thought was possible.
And joining us in this discussion is Robinder Sachdev, who's author of Trumpotopia, international affairs expert. Thank you, Mr. Sachdev, for joining us here at NewsX World. We appreciate you speaking to us this morning in India. First comments, not Nobel, but Trump gets a Peace Prize from FIFA.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, and Trump is, in a way, you know, he is genuinely trying. Okay, he tries to broker deals where he would want to, you know, extract a pound of benefit for the United States also. But if we were to step back and look overall, he seems to be an evangelical or zealous or with zeal to bring about peace, one. But at the same time, there are many of his actions which are causing, yes, death and destruction in the world also, for which he's being criticized. Like just yesterday, the shooting down on the boats in the Caribbean. So it's a contradictory situation, but on the whole, and secondly, with regards to FIFA, yes, FIFA is being criticized. One, you know, maybe for cozying up to Trump, not being apolitical, which they should be as a, you know, as a sports community. But hey, they think that, I mean, I would rather think actually anything which nudges Trump towards leading more towards peace, a just peace, however, is welcome. In fact, our think tank, Imagine India, have nominated Donald Trump for the Gandhi Peace Prize for his role in bringing out specifically the Cambodia-Thailand peace. We had announced before the peace accord that in case Trump is able to broker a peace between Cambodia and Thailand, two nations which are civilizational neighbors, siblings of India in our neighborhood, we want to see peace. And if Trump were to be able to broker that peace, Image India, our institute, would nominate him for a Gandhi Peace Prize. In Kuala Lumpur at the ASEAN Summit, he managed to do that. So we have officially actually nominated him for the Gandhi Peace Prize.
Okay, but I beg to point out here, Gandhi Peace Prize versus FIFA Peace Prize. It's very different when you're talking about an international federation of soccer. And particularly one that has previously pulled up players for displaying any political messages, you know, and here we have the President of the United States being conferred the Peace Prize by FIFA. It's, you know, in contradiction of FIFA's own standing of maintaining political neutrality.
Yeah, I can understand that, but that let us ask the board of FIFA. Apparently, what FIFA is doing, it's going by its mandate, and the board of governors of FIFA would have taken this decision, right? Of course, with whatsoever subtext and context and their intentions. But if the board of FIFA takes a decision, then so be it. Then it's the board which goes on. But I do agree with you that they cannot claim to be speaking on behalf of millions or billions of football lovers who all say that Trump should get a peace prize. No, that is very much true. FIFA cannot represent the billions of football lovers in the world, but notionally they can. So as an organization, they've done it. Fine, that be it. Similarly with us, we are an independent think tank. The Gandhi Peace Prize is conferred by the government of India. The government of India will decide. We, from what we think and we see, is that if Trump, in this one, you know, peace, has managed to bring about peace, I think it is worth a peace prize from our point of view for the Gandhi Peace Prize. In fact, I think he should be angling more for the Gandhi Peace Prize rather than the Nobel Prize. That is the subtext of the message we want to send through our nomination, that Gandhi Peace Prize is a much more sophisticated, higher level Nobel ideal, but then Trump has to work towards it and to reach it. But still in the meanwhile, if he is able to bring about peace, let's say Congo, Rwanda yesterday, Fine, that's worth something. But yes, therein what they've done is that they are looking to tie up all the cobalt sources of Congo, okay, and copper and titanium, tungsten, etc. So he is looking to, definitely gain a strategic benefit for the United States also.
All right, but there are also, I mean, I don't intend to disagree with you. I just want to
Sure.
also point out that there are also comments coming in that while he is trying to wager for peace in several regions, he's also accused of human rights violations by many other countries, including his military posturing in Caribbean, attacks on Venezuelan alleged drug traffickers. So there are allegations and counter allegations to that. I'd leave it at that, but I request you
May
to
I?
stay on. Of
May
course,
I
please go on.
quickly? May I? I completely understand and agree with you. You know, there's a Native American saying there are two wolves inside you, a bad wolf and a good wolf. Which wolf wins the battle is the one whom you feed more. So our intent in pushing Trump towards peace and working towards peace is to nudge him, push him, elevate him towards that goodness rather than towards the negative accusations which he is very rightfully also accused of. We want to
Absolutely.
bring out the better of him if we can and bring it for the good of the world.
Sure. Thank you for your comment there. Do stay on. I'd request you to give your perspective on another development that's now coming in. Now, the UN nuclear watchdog on a strike that Ukraine has attributed to Russia said that a protective shield at the Chernobyl nuclear plant in war-torn Ukraine, built to contain radioactive material from the 1986 disaster, can no longer perform its main safety function due to drone damage. The International Atomic Energy Agency said an inspection last week of the steel confinement structure completed in 2019 found the drone impact in February, as in 3 years into Russia-Ukraine war has degraded the structure. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan's energy minister has said that automated safety systems were activated during a Ukrainian drone attack and there were no leak from the oil pipeline. The Kazakh authority has said that the automated safety systems worked the way they were supposed to, and the pipelines remained hermetically sealed and there were no environmental threats. All right. I request Mr. Sachdev to join us back and give his comment on the latest development, Chernobyl nuclear plant's protective shield damaged. When you see a possible agreement to a peace plan to arrive at a potential ceasefire coming to fruition so that such kind of disasters can be prevented?
Oh, yeah, absolutely and totally so. However, unfortunately, it seems that the peace deal, though we would all, I think the world would like to see it, not a peace deal, no violence or immediate stoppage of violence, stoppage of killings, right? We would love to see it right now, but unfortunately, it does not seem to be near on the horizon. It seems it's still away, weeks, months, more months. One. Secondly, regarding Chernobyl, it has been, of course, a matter of concern right since the start of the war in February, 24th February of 2022, I think, right? So it's been 4 years. In these 4 years, there have been multiple instances where Chernobyl campus or some of its facilities have been damaged, some attacks seen there, electricity supply cut off, signs of worry. But quote unquote, I would say thankfully, so far, there has not been any catastrophic scenario emerging from Chernobyl. One. And secondly, often or sometimes it has been said that it's a false flag operation. The Russians blame the Ukrainians, saying that the Ukrainians themselves are doing it, and the Ukrainians say, no, why would we do it? It's the Russians who are, hell bent on destroying and bringing destruction all around. So that little, fog is also there. And thirdly, yes, IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, their regulatory inspectors have between the IA, between the Ukrainian and between the Russians, I think on the technical side, I think the the issue has not crossed a point where we would see a disaster happening. So hopefully this time also it will not be a disastrous, any disastrous outcome. But as you very rightly say, this is the tinderbox on which the region is sitting.
All right, well, safety mechanisms have been activated as of now. Thank you, Mr. Albinder Sajthi, for joining us in this discussion. And with that, viewers, we move on. Air travel across India is in turmoil for a fourth day after Indigo cancelled more than 1,000 flights, including all departures from New Delhi, prompting the government to announce special relief measures for the country's largest airline. India's Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu says that the Indigo crisis will be investigated by a committee as air travel across India is in turmoil for a fourth day now. This comes as Indian authorities have introduced new stricter regulation limiting pilot flying times and placing tighter restrictions on their operation of nighttime flights. But Indigo admitted it failed to plan properly ahead of a November 1 deadline for the measures' introduction. Let's listen in to what the Indian Aviation Minister has said.
Mismanagement that has happened at the Indigo regarding their crew, that is why this incident has happened, which is why to ensure normalcy is there at the earliest, we have given certain abeyance to the FDTL norms to Indigo. But on the other side, because we have observed this only in Indigo, so we have established a committee which will inquire into all this so that they can establish where things went wrong and who did it wrong. And we are going to take necessary action on that also.
Meanwhile, Indigo CEO Peter Elbers have released a video statement apologizing to the customers. Let's take a look.
I want to share with you that we have experienced severe operational disruptions for the past few days. Since then, the crisis continued to aggravate, with today, December 5th, being the most severely impacted day, with the number of cancellations well over 1,000, or more than half of our number of daily flights. I, on behalf of all of us at Indigo, would like to extend our sincerest apologies for the major inconvenience this has caused to many.
Now, I welcome retired Group Captain Dr. V.N. Jha, retired officer of the Indian Air Force and a senior scientist and a former joint director at India's DRDO. Thank you for joining us here at News X World. I appreciate you giving us your time. Now, there are many lapses that are coming to the fore as far as Indigo is concerned. The new duty time limitation was introduced in 2024. Indigo got the DGCA to delay that implementation, and during that time there was no hiring that was done by Indigo, even when the pilots' bodies had approached the high courts to start putting them on rosters. And for the longest time, they have been able to get whatever they want via DGCA as well. So what's really happening, and how do we see the crisis now resolving after they've been continuously lobbying with the DGCA, sir?
Very good afternoon to you. Look, this FDTL has been a bone of contention for decades. I had done my specialty in aerospace medicine way back in 1982-83. Even that time, it was a bone of contention. The international bodies, national bodies, and the Pilots Guild, all of them were having a very, very divergent views, and no unison was there. But over the period, more research went into it because, fatigue is more of a subjective than the objective. Objective aspects of fatigue comes much later, and the subjective, sequelae that sets in much faster, much earlier. So there have been a lack of objective data or objective parameters in saying that some pilot or so-and-so pilot is under fatigue. So research has been going on, many research, plenty of it has been there, based onto which this FDTL has been laid down. And this new FDTL regulations, I believe, was received by our DGCA way back last year in January or February. And then thereafter, DGCA did inform all the operators. And there was a temporary periodic sort of cushion period given till 30th of November to
Right.
implement all those aspects. Now, all other operators, they have implemented it by and large, more or less. But, you know, Indigo has got 60% of the volume of the traffic that it is handling. It has got a large number of fleet, large number of the pilots. And as a result of this new FDTL regulations, more pilot had to be recruited, and you know the pilots are not available off the shelf. Pilot are there plenty. Someone is operating some aircraft, someone is operating other aircraft, and there is a rules very few people know, that even when you change from one aircraft to the other type aircraft I'm mentioning, even in the Airbus, there are many types of the aircraft. The moment you change the fleet, there are mandatory type training that is given to the pilot, and that needs time, that takes time. So at any given point of time, there is no readily available pilot who can put onto the flight task or for particular aircraft. So there was a cushion period given to them. It was pertinent on behalf of both DGCA as well as Indigo. DGCA to call the Indigo authority to ask them that this axe is going to fall on 30th November. Are they ready for it or not? And on part of the operator, Indigo, if Indigo had not implemented those restrictions or those recommendations, then Indigo should have gone back to the DGCA. That look, I've done so and so things, I'm lagging here, I need some more cushion period. It is not that the cushion period, in the cushion period, there was any violation of the safety norms or there was a danger of fatigue pilots operating. No, none of such things are there. That regulation has been there in force for last so many years, and seldom any accident has happened purely on behalf of the fatigue, leaving one or the exceptions apart. So they were operating okay, but the moment Indigo felt that they will not be able to meet this deadline of 30th November.
But thankfully, sorry to interrupt you there, but thankfully there have not been any accidents, but there definitely have been reports of pilots dying because of fatigue. You know, we had this one instance of an Air India Express pilot losing his life, while flying from the airport. Now, what would you say? Is this a manufactured crisis? Because pilots have been saying that they were ready to fly, but were not assigned duty. And in fact, the Indigo pressured the DGCA to fold.
You know, I have been a doctor for last about 50 years or so. And I slightly differ in accepting that they are, due to the flying fatigue, pilots have died.
Sure.
No, not
Sure,
solely
please.
because of that. Not solely because of that. The fatigue factor also could have been one of the factors in death of some pilot who finally died because of something else. Fatigue could also have contributed to it. But
Right.
fatigue alone, much before the fatigue sets in, pilots are off the cockpit, off the duty. There are doctors at almost every major airfield wherein these pilots, they undergo pre-flight medical check or at least some part of the medical check in which any pilot says that I am absolutely fatigued, I can't fly. Doctor, I cannot fly. Doctor will take him out of the roster. So it will be wrong to say that some pilot was absolutely fatigued and then he was pushed into the aircraft to fly through the society. That doesn't happen. Now coming back to the other aspect of it. Look, the FDTL is a norm. Every pilot has got different types of different timings of and different levels of fatigue before fatigue sets in. Many have got different other things. There are many variables which affect the fatigue factor. So everything cannot be addressed on the individual basis. That is why this FDTL is there. But FDTL should not be a thumb rule in the present case. It should be a guideline. There could be exceptions to it, and that exceptions has been there in force for last so many decades. And I'm mentioning to you again that only because what was applicable on 30th of November or till 30th of November, there was no major risk factor to say that the fatigue pilots are flying those aircraft. No, it was not the case.
Right.
So that could have continued for some more time if Indigo management would have gone to the DGCA to say that, okay, give me so much of time. I have recruited so many pilots who are undergoing through the training. And what is right now happening? The DGCA has, withdrawn that acts. So this could have been much more congenial. It could have been implemented in congenial way. So I feel both DGCA and the operators are at blame for what has happened to the passengers. A lot of passengers have faced so much of difficulty. This was uncalled for. This could have resolved much more smoothly, much more comfortably, taking everyone into account. Even the passengers could have cautioned that there is a new norm for your safety. In case some flight gets delayed or cancelled, please do do have alternate arrangement. Such things, if the passengers were also cautioned or they were educated or they were briefed about this sort of panic should not have happened.
All right, Dr. Jha, at the risk of exceeding my bulletin time here, I want to ask you one final question. What's the proposed solution? Please, a very quick answer.
Solution is straightforward. Airlines will have to have a number of the pilots, trained pilots, and the roster should be made a little more carefully. Some FDTL is a right now thumb rule. DGCA could suggest that it is a guideline, and within that guideline, maintain your own type of rostering that you are doing. Even DGCA has allowed 1 hour of extra FDL, FT as well as the FDTL. So those things are there, some bit of flexibility there, but in extreme exigencies or extreme exceptional cases, some amount of flexibility could be maintained, and that is what is my suggestion. Even our group has been discussing all these things, what has happened. But I think it should be done with congenially, sitting together, finding a way out. The guidelines are there, but that cannot be made a strict sanction that, okay, X falls here. You have flown 8 hours, so you cannot go for any minute. That should not happen. As long as the individual is fine, feeling fine that he can continue this, let him do that many minutes or maybe an hour or so. But don't cut that pilot, prevent that pilot from flying for 7 hours or 8 hours. That may extend to 8.5 hours or 9 hours. That should be there. But these all depends on to the pilot's motivation to fly. If he's highly motivated, he can do a lot. We have seen in the Air Force. We have been, there's a first sortie, early morning, 5 o'clock. And the same team, same pilot, same thing continue, the day flying, then they have a brief rest, and they go for the night flying. Night flying continues till about 12 o'clock in the night, dark phases. It is absolutely bad. But then that is how the motivation can take you through, and that can discard the fatigue factor to some extent. We don't want the airlines to do that, because airline flying is slightly more boring than the fighter flying that we do in the Air Force. In the Air Force, there is not a single minute when the pilot's mind is not occupied to his task. But in the commercial airline, after you take off, set course, then there's a period of lull. Although co-pilot and the pilot, they keep on talking to each other in those times, do various checks, go through the checklist. So all those things happen. But even then, there is a boredom set in the cockpit. So that induces to the fatigue factor much more than what we have in the Indian Air Force.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jha, for joining us at NewsX World and giving your perspective there. And with that, viewers, we move on. Now, Frank Gehry, the world-renowned architect whose daring sculptural designs reshaped skylines and sparked global debate, has died at the age of 96. His chief of staff confirmed he passed away Friday at his home in Santa Monica after a brief respiratory illness. Gehry's work from the Guggenheim Museum to Bilbao to the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles made him one of the most celebrated and controversial figures in modern architecture. His buildings, often wrapped in flowing steel or glass, were hailed as masterpieces by admirers and derided as self-indulgent by critics. Born Frank Owen Goldberg in Toronto, he rose from modest beginnings to win the Pritzker Prize and design landmark projects around the world, including Paris's Foundation Louis Vuitton, and Facebook's Menlo Park expansion. Tributes today include praise from French billionaire Bernard Arnault, who called Jerry an enduring source of inspiration. Jerry's bold style, sharp wit, and willingness to defy convention leave behind a legacy that transformed the very idea of what buildings can be. And that's all we have time for. Keep watching Newsweek's World for more news updates from around the world.